people, and if you're watching live, checking us out on YouTube, or listening on your favorite podcast provider, you are most definitely my people. Welcome to another episode of Botched, and Chair Shots. We still have high hopes of delivering quality wrestling content, and if not, we'll sprinkle in our end. You know, so we still get over. I am your host, a chef by trade, no work by choice. I am the Will Gray. Joining me tonight, I'm hyped. He's the co-host of The Rewind. He's the kennel master behind Route 4 Kennels. He is the diva to my Bubba Ray. RN, welcome back, Bubba. How are you?
Pretty good. Testify, my brother.
That's it. That's how we do it. Also joining us tonight is the man who comes with his own disclaimer, and that is the opinions of the Yellow Shoe Guy are his and his alone and do not reflect that of Botched, and Chair Shots or the Smack Throw Podcast Network. Bobby Mack, how are you?
Dude, I am doing so great. Like, this is the biggest trade, like, going on right now. Like, the biggest one probably since Babe Ruth, Red Sox, and the Yankees, since Griner and Bout. I'm going back to Florida. Texas has negotiated my freedom. I get to go back home. So excited.
Are you sure they negotiated or they're just letting you go?
Hey, listen, Governor of Florida really wanted me back.
And listen, some of his views do reflect me. I do agree with 90% of his shit. So
That's right.
that disclaimer is not 100% accurate.
That's a Yellow Shoe Guy endorsement from Mr. 8984.
Absolutely.
And rounding out our quartet of personalities here is the Hova to my Beyonce. She is the Bonnie to my Clyde. She is the brains behind the operation. She is the boss bitch, Miss Alison Siegel. Alison, how are you?
I'm good.
Good? Good. All right, guys. I always start this episode. They always go the same way. I always start, what has you guys pissed off for greatness? I'm going to start. Bobby, what has you the most upset this week in the world of professional wrestling?
I'm going to skip the one topic because I know Alison will bring it up later. So, yeah, I'm not going to say anything about that. I'll tell you what, the fact that the Briscoes won the belts in ROH, that pisses me off. Like, dude, FTR is the best tag team out there right now. The Briscoes are best part-timers. They're not even allowed on AEW TV. But yet, AEW doesn't have the balls to push them on their TV, but they can push them on their pay-per-views. That just pisses me off. Pisses me off for FTR, and it also pisses me off for the Briscoes. If they're that talented, then Tony should be able to stand behind them.
Absolutely. RN, you're up. What has you pissed off for greatness?
It's actually kind of goes in line with my esteemed colleague, Yellow Shoe Guy. I absolutely thought that the Ring of Honor pay-per-view it wasn't ass. Like, it was a good show. But this show kind of even reminded me, like, it didn't feel like a Ring of Honor show. It felt like a fucking AEW show. Like, it was literally AEW light. It was like when WWE took over, started running the ECW shows. That's what it felt like to me. So, like, I love Ring of Honor. Like, that's why I wanted, when you first announced this show, I was the first one to jump on saying, I got to be on this show. And, like, watching that show, I was excited for it. And it just, and I don't want to make it seem like I didn't enjoy the show and, like, some of the matches weren't dope, but, like, it just felt like an episode of Dynamite, if I'm being 100% honest.
In some parts, Rampage.
In some parts, Rampage, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I know they had some Ring of Honor guys past and stuff on there. Like, I love Dalton. I love a couple of other guys that was on there. But like I said, it still just felt like an episode of Dynamite. Even the main event to me felt like a Dynamite main event. Like, it was dope. Don't get me wrong. And I don't think the Briscoes should have won either, though I'm not the biggest FTR fan if you guys watch our shows. But they are literally the best tag team outside of WWE. They have all the fucking belts. Why would you give the belts to somebody that you're not even going to promote or put on TV for promotion you're trying to get back started up and trying to get some goodwill from? Like, that decision, like, I get it because they are literally, if you think of RH within the last, like, 5 to 10 years, you think of the Briscoes, you think of Jay. I get that, but, like, it just doesn't make sense moving forward if you're trying to establish this as another brand and get it going. Like, why would you put it on people that, A, are so controversial and have so many different opinions about them, and B, if you're not going to put them on your fucking show? So what's the point? So their belts are gone. Pretty much the belts are up in smoke.
Yeah, this is ECW once Big Show won the belt.
Exactly. That's how I felt about it.
Testify. I'm behind you guys both. I'm not going to get to mine yet. Allison, why has you pissed off for greatness?
Okay, I've been going back and forth with using this one for a while. I used to really love Aubrey Edwards. Like, when she first started as a ref, amazing. But now I feel like she's doing too much. Like, she's trying to constantly draw attention to herself. With her makeup, with how she's doing her hair, like with how she's standing during matches. Like, it's super distracting. She's literally the only ref out of every promotion and every match that I notice more than I notice the wrestlers in a match. And it's super, super annoying.
I agree 100%. But I've said that since day one with her. Like, she over exaggerates. I get that she's a female in usually a male dominated position, but I think she's gone past that. Like, she's gone from somebody that you barely noticed that really did well to now she's trying to get like the center of attention.
Yeah. And there's other female refs that are amazing that don't do that. That don't do that same thing. Like, WWE has many female refs, and AEW has other female refs that don't do what she does. It's weird. The way she stands it's almost awkward. It's like, look at me.
I never paid attention to her. Like, me personally, like, I understood the significance of what she represented starting out, but like since then, like y'all said, like, it's like I go out of my way to ignore her, like, especially when she started doing like interviews and shit and everything like that. It's like, I get it. She's a female ref. Like, and early on she did bring something to some of those championship matches and stuff like that. But like y'all said, like, at this point, like, the super red lipstick, the fucking exaggerated makeup and shit, and like the weird facials, like, you're not supposed to be on camera, and we're not supposed to notice you on camera. And that's not just because you're a woman, that's because you're a fucking referee. Mm-hmm. Like, if we're noticing the referee, it's not a good match.
Yeah, she doesn't work the square, she doesn't work the half circle. Like, she works the entire ring. And granted, it annoys me when I watch a WWE ref only work the half circle, but she's just like all over the place. Like, she's a Texas tornado, and it makes me appreciate the WWE referees more because they don't take up the show. Like, they're not trying to.
In her defense, though, with that, I mean, let's be honest, those AEW matches are all over the fucking place. So she kind of has to, because there's no rhyme or reason to anything that they do. And then on top of that, another thing is, like, what rules does she call? Like, the rules are different for every fucking match. So it's like, sometimes she has to, like, over exaggerate some things because I think she's trying to play off to the crowd that this is a big deal. This is not supposed to be happening. I'm the ref trying to stop it, because let's be honest, we don't know the rules to any AEW match when it starts. We don't know how the ref's going to call. It's like dealer's choice with the ref, how they want to fucking call the match. So it's like, some of the stuff I don't really give her. Like, I know why she's doing it, and I get it. Like, especially with some of the bigger matches and shit, like, she's trying to convey to the audience what should or should not be happening but that's their fault for never letting us know what the rule. Like, if you're going to say, if the rules are going to be the rules, then be the rules. But if they're not, then just be like ECW. Like, there ain't no fucking rules. The ref's just here to make sure nobody dies. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, but we never know. Like, even when there's not a no disqualification match, but then there's no disqualification rules. Like, it's like, and then when there is a non-disqualification match, they're calling rope breaks and shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, you never know what the actual fucking rules are. So, like, some of the stuff, like I said, I don't give her shit for her facials and her being so demonstrative on certain things, but she is still too far out there and, like, putting her face too much front and center.
Mm-hmm.
My 2 cents is that she's not Rick Knox, and I'm grateful for that.
Right.
He's the worst ref on their roster, 100%.
He's not far from doing it, though, honestly.
Yeah.
Is that the bald guy?
Yeah. Rounding out the quartet, kind of sounding off on RN and Bobby, is the disrespect by AEW to sign the Briscoes to a Ring of Honor contract, build them in one of the top feuds of the year, drop the titles, win the titles again. They give us one of the best tag team feuds we've seen in the last 30 years, all for the Briscoes to only get 20 seconds of highlight time on a highlight vignette. I think I'm with everything RN was saying and everything Bobby was saying, in a sense that if you're going to give us the Briscoes, give us the Briscoes. Don't try to tiptoe through the tulips around it. You know, like, we've talked about it before, RN, you and I have talked about it on the air. me and Bobby have, me and Allison have. We've seen what Jay and Mark have done in the past and how they've corrected their lives to where they're at now in 2022. And it's Baker Mayfield syndrome. Are we going to hold somebody responsible for something they said out of context? Well, not out of context, but in a different... It's weird, but you guys get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no.
Like, are we going to continue to hang... Like, to put him out there, like, hang him out to dry for something that he said and has apologized for? I think it's time to move on and put Briscoes on AEW television. FTR, Briscoes, Usos, New Day. Like, there's not a ton of really great tag teams left out there. We should be seeing these guys every week on TV.
Yeah, I say just bring back Jack and Jerry at this point.
Bobby, you realize that that's not possible, my friend. All right, guys. We're going to send it over to the boss bitch for news and rumors. Allison, what you got for us tonight?
The first thing is Mandy Rose released by AEW.
No, she wasn't.
She was.
Not AEW. I have things written down. Anyways, Mandy Rose was released by WWE for making content outside of her contract. It wasn't actually for what the content was, but for making content outside of her contract. She today tweeted that she appreciated all the love and support that she's getting, and she is not taking down the site, which makes me think that she has no intentions of going back to WWE and maybe jumping ship to AEW.
No, I don't think she'll jump ship to AEW. Like, I put up a post on TikTok today at yellowshoeguy.com or whatever about that, like just goofing off with breaking news. I think Mandy's got other things outside of pro wrestling. Like, I think she's finally looked in the mirror and realizes she's gorgeous and she can make a lot of money. And rumors that I've heard are she's making more money on this adult site or this fan site, I guess is more accurate,
Right.
than she was making in the WWE. And she's not hurting her back. She's not hurting her neck. She's not risking her life. She's showing pictures of herself, and okay, good for her. Like, I'm happy for everybody that sent me the pictures and the videos and stuff like that because it helped my research.
There it is.
Send those to
12
me.
minutes, 56 seconds.
Send those to me,
He was
too. I
so
need to
good. He
do
was
some
doing
research
so
as well.
good.
Yeah, dude, it was some of the best research I've done. And it's funny because I just saw that my mom's in the chat on TikTok. So sorry, Mom. But yeah, it's this is different than like the Page thing where things were leaked. Like, this is somebody that put out content. WWE knew about the content, and I think they just got upset about the content. And I understand, they've got deals with toys and kids and all this other stuff and PG. Was it rightful that she got fired when you got guys going back for, second rehabs and, DUIs and stuff like that? That's up for debate.
My thing is, she's making money, and I think it'll come out that they gave her the choice to take the shit down, and she was like, "Fuck you! I make more money doing this than getting my head busted open weekly." So there's that part, and then like these things have to come up in contract talks. Like, these are going to be real things now, and it's like this independent contract shit. Eventually, it's going to be a person that has some money that can fight one of these wrestling companies to get this shit done and sent to court and fought over correctly, because these contracts, I was listening to Busted Open, and Bubba Ray and Tommy were like, we are not independent contractors. It might say we are, but these are fucking, they said the only thing worse than a wrestling contract is like the Entertainment 360 contract. They said literally that's the only contracts in entertainment that are worse than wrestling contracts. So it's like, my thing is like, I understand the company stands like with the toys and all that and everything. Like, this, to me, this is some hater shit. This is like those kids that hate on the teacher that was giving them BJs when they were young. Like, bro, why are you fucking it up for everybody?
Yeah, and she's making $40 a month off each subscriber. You can't tell me she doesn't have at least 10,000 subscribers out there.
Oh, I guarantee you she's making more money doing that than she is wrestling. I guarantee you.
And then she charges she charges more pictures. Like, if you get private pictures or whatever, she charges more each one of those pictures.
Right.
Like I said, I've done my research. I'm not gonna be able to pay my rent next month, but I did the research.
But here's the thing. Nobody would care about her if she wasn't on WWE. Like, nobody would know who she is. So, like, you know, there is sort of kind of like the line of, you know, she, like, all these people are saying, like, she needs justice and blah, 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 and that they're throwing her under the bus because of the nature of the pictures. No, at the end of the day, like, she violated her contract. Like, I get, like, you want to post what you want to post and you want to make money, but, like, at the end of the day, she violated her contract. If anybody else had violated their contract, they would have done the same thing to them.
Right, but I think, like, what's the contract say? Like, is it a morality contract? Because
that's not what they're saying she violated. They're saying she violated, like, making money outside of an unsanctioned, like, WWE thing.
An unapproved media outlet or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
But the other ones play, like, the other ones have Twitch. Yeah, the other ones have Twitch. The other ones have, like, I don't know what Paige Van Zant's, like, deal is with AEW. But she's like on OnlyFans, like.
Well, it's an apple to oranges comparison to go AEW to WWE because the way Tony Khan writes up his contracts. WWE does the exclusive rights to the WWE monikers. So the New Day and Xavier Woods and those guys are now allowed to do their podcasts and stuff under the WWE banner with their WWE names, but they can't do them under their shoot names. They're only, if they do it, they have to do it under the WWE names now.
Right.
My 2 cents on the Mandy Rose thing is neither side, when it comes down to it, did anything wrong. She broke her contract to chase the bag. She was making what I read was $100K a month to do this. Do you, boo? Make the money. I'm here for it. #rebel. You know what I mean? Like, go out and do it. WWE said it was because she broke her contract, not because of the content she was making. She knew she was breaking the rules, so she lost her job. If you show up to work drunk, you're going to get fired. You know what I mean? Like, if you do something egregious to lose your job, you're going to lose your job. If you break a contract, you're going to get fired. It's simply put. And that's what happened.
But here's the thing. WWE hasn't announced that she's been fired yet.
She was officially removed from the roster today.
Okay, but there hasn't been a press release, and this is a publicly traded company. I looked at the corporate account. I haven't seen anything that even announces this. So, is it really official at this point?
Or is she just suspended?
That also might be the case. What I read was that they didn't. It wasn't a suspension. She was taken off air. The plan was to already remove the belt from her, but then when the leak happened, everything kind of hit the fan.
Everything up.
Yeah. So I think the thing is, it's all hearsay anyways. The dirt sheets, Uncle Dave, all of those guys. Like, when you look at what it's doing, the issue is like, it's all speculation at this point. We can't put anything to bed until WWE comes out and makes an official statement.
Right, I guarantee you with the nationwide news that she's getting, she probably got 20, 30,000 more people
at least
subscribing today. Yeah.
At least.
Could you imagine, and I heard this on another podcast, this is not original. Could you imagine if WWE supported this? Like, how much richer she would get, and they would get a part of this. And I really feel like that's one of the things that got them pissed off was the fact they weren't making any money off of this. And I think if they found a way to make money off of this, they could push WWE After Dark with Mandy Rose. You know,
well, they were fine when she was in a bikini sucking on Otis's face in a pool a year and a half ago.
Yeah, like, they were pushing her to be a sex symbol.
Right.
But then once she took it on her own to get more money on her own without their cut, that's when they got butthurt and left. And the same thing happened, in a different way with The Rock. When The Rock went to Hollywood, they tried to take his name, and he had to be Dwayne Johnson for a few movies.
Right.
And then once he went back and played nice with WWE, then now it's a great relationship. And I think that's really where Mandy is. Different circumstance, different type of movies, different type of production, but it is what it is. I think WWE is losing a cash cow at this point with Mandy. I think they could make a ton of money by supporting her after hours career.
And like I said, to me, we don't know anything. To me, it could have been she was like, "Fuck y'all, like take this down, or you're getting fired. Like, we know what you're doing. It's all right. It happened. Just remove it or stop it from here on out. You're good." And she was like, "No, I'm making more money doing this."
Yep.
Like, so until I see a press release, that's what I'm under the assumption on. Like, why else would it go down like this and so fast? and so quick. We haven't heard anything. We only have speculation. So to me, that means that WWE wasn't prepared to release her.
Yeah, like she's sitting here going, I can make all this money for taking 3 or 4 pictures / videos a week and put them up there, or I can go, 3 or 4 days and get the shit kicked out of me in a ring,
make half.
Yeah, and make half of it. Like it's a great.
And like you said, I guarantee you, she probably got at least her subscriptions probably went up at least 300%.
Probably.
Yeah, and she's 32 years old. It's not like WWE has a record for keeping women much older than what she is at this level. So I'd like to thank Marie Shadows for supporting my my research in the chat.
All right, Allison, what's next on your list?
Next is Matt Riddle. Has been pulled for. We found out last week that Matt Riddle was pulled from TV. This week we found out that is because he failed a second drug test and is being sent to rehab.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not fired.
I feel like it's been fresh on everybody's mind and everybody's talked about it a lot. Substance abuse is a very real thing. I recently had a guest in Duke the Dumpster Drosy who talked about it, what his struggle with it. I know you and Kai have talked a lot about it on the Rewind. It's a very real thing, especially in the sport of pro wrestling. We've seen it, a ton with guys throughout the years. So I'm hoping the best for Matt Riddle as a person. I don't miss Matt Riddle, the wrestler, on my TV, though.
No, and I wonder
with all due respect, fuck you. He's one of my favorite wrestlers. But no, yeah, like you said, we talked about it a lot, like substance abuse, and it kind of goes, it sucks, but it kind of goes hand in hand with being a wrestler. Like that, they've always had that stigma, and then shit like this just keeps that perpetuated. Like if you're a wrestler, you're drinking, doing drugs, like God knows what else. And with him too, like he's going through a lot with his family and stuff and all that. So like sometimes that shit, especially with your kids, like I know that she was like keeping his kids from him and stuff, and she was blasting him out on social media and shit, and they've been separated for over a year and everything. So like sometimes that shit just gets to you and you turn to the wrong things to get past it or get over it, and hopefully that's not the case, and hopefully he can get his shit back together and be back on the TV screen.
I feel like WWE also using that as a storyline was super fucked up. Like with that whole thing with Seth Rollins and like calling him out for like being a bad dad and like all this stuff. Like I know that they're allowed to say no, you can't like touch certain things, but like that was real fucked up.
Yeah.
Especially knowing that he already has a history of substance abuse.
Right, but just like with Mandy, you push her sexism or sexy side, whatever, and then with Matt, you push him being a druggie. Like he goes out there with bongos, he's got a 420 shirt. Like you push him using drugs, and then he gets suspended.
Well, technically speaking, they don't test for THC. The WWE.
That's why I said cocaine's a hell of a drug.
So that gimmick is okay under their drug testing umbrella now.
It's either pills or coke. I mean, what else could it be?
It was actually MDMA, from what I read last night. Two tests in 2 weeks for Molly.
That'll get you.
Miss Siegel?
Next is Vince is saying he wants to come back to WWE, that he's not done, despite the fact that more women have come forward this week filing lawsuits against him for sexual harassment.
That's horse.
I say put him as number 1 in the Women's Royal Rumble and let him come out and they can beat him down.
Yeah, he's an idiot. None of that. As a publicly traded company, there's no way in fucking hell they're letting him anyway back near that company, especially with more lawsuits coming up, which 2 now, and I believe the Wall Street Journal came out with another thing saying there maybe 3 to 4 more coming after that. Why the fuck would you bring him back? And all the dirt sheets and all the ones, everyone's saying that no one wants Vince back, that it's been a breath of fresh air having the Triple H regime. So like I said, regardless of any of that, a publicly traded company does not bring back an old dirty old man that has Deshaun Watson cases coming for him. Like it's just not happening.
Yeah, there's no way the board's going to vote him in, even though he's got his daughter, his son-in-law, Khan on there, all people that he knows.
Right.
There's no way they're going to vote him in. Like
he set it up that way. That's another thing too. Like he set up like a separation of church and state when he redid the whole structure on the business side of it. So he kind of set himself up because he wanted to be able to still be head of creative and everything and not be affected by the business side. So now that's what's going to come back and bite him, because the business side is going to be what would vote for him to come back. And guarantee they're not voting for him to come back.
No, the only way for him to get control again is to make
Storyline.
Take away from the public and make it a private company again,
Right.
and buy out all those stockholders. The other rumor I heard with them is they want to push him for the Hall of Fame this year, and then give him a night of like they did with Flair or with Michaels, like just the yay Vince, we love you, blah blah blah.
It's too soon.
Yeah,
Way too
I
soon.
agree. I agree. But at his age, how long can you wait before you don't get the Vince speech at the Hall of Fame?
I mean, but at this point, like, doing that would look so bad on the company that it's just not even worth it. And, like, the reason, like, all these women are coming out of the woodwork now is, like, it's all these women, like, things that happened, like, back in the 80s and the early 90s, like, their non-disclosure agreements are expiring. And they can finally talk about this stuff and finally go back after him. So I'm sure, like, he thought, oh, all this stuff settled and done with, it'll never come back. But now, these women see what's going on in society and like, no, we're going to get the actual justice that we deserve.
Right.
So
I'm gonna zip my lip on this one. I don't want to go too wide on this.
I don't think Vince should come back. Simply put, I think
Nobody thinks
the
so.
wheel is kept turning without him. I think it's fine. I'm still leaning towards the buyout, though. I still think that's part of it. I think down the road they're going to sell. So
I think so.
that's a different conversation for a different day, though. Next.
New Japan releases the Wrestle Kingdom card. Anybody care?
I haven't seen it, so I'll definitely be looking for it like that. I only watch maybe about 3 or 4 New Japan like pay-per-views a year, and definitely Wrestle Kingdom's one of them.
I'm going to ask Marie to throw in the names of the guys FTR is going against for the IWGP title and the finals of the TV title. I think it's Zack Sabre Jr. in that one. The main event is Jay White versus Okada, the G1 Climax winner versus the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. So that's going to be fire. The semi-main event is Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega for the U.S. Heavyweight title. Another 2 guys that are going to be a banger in the Tokyo Dome. FTR is putting together the IWGP Tag Team titles with Goto versus Yoshihashi. Then you've got the TV title on the line in the finals, the IWGP Women's title with Kairi Sane performing at Wrestle Kingdom. Like, the card is stacked. Koji Muto's last match in New Japan is that night. Like, there's a ton of great wrestling coming.
Supposedly
for Wrestle Kingdom.
Sasha Banks.
And Sasha Banks is going to be making an appearance. Yo and Leo versus TJP and Akiri for the junior heavyweight tag titles. Every title in IWGP and New Japan is on the line that night.
Is it going to be 2 days again, or is it going to be the 45-hour long?
It's 12 matches, I think. 2 on the pre-show, 10 on the main card. Marie, correct me if I'm wrong. 1 day, I would say probably between 4 and 5 hours. It'll start 3 o'clock in the morning your time.
Right.
I'm hyped for Wrestle Kingdom.
I thought last year was 2 days. The last couple years just been 2 days.
Last year was technically 3, I think, because they had a day of pre-show that was just like preliminary matches and young lions and stuff like that. She said that she's waiting for Sasha to be approved by Stardom. That makes sense because Stardom's the female New Japan over there. So I'm low-key hyped for it. Bring on Wrestle Kingdom. We're doing a Wrestle Kingdom preview show 2 weeks from now on the 29th.
Am I part of that?
Bobby, you can take the night off if you choose to.
Thank you.
We'll replace you. It's fine.
Marie Shadows will be the yellow shoe guy that night.
Right.
What's next?
I'll give her some bullet points.
Let's talk about NXT Deadline.
It was a good show.
I thought so. The Iron Survivor matches were both fire. I'm happy with both winners. I think it's cool that Roxanne Perez was able to get the title on Tuesday. She had the Ring of Honor women's title before Mercedes Martinez got it. So I think there were some good moves made, some good matches won. Braun Breaker was the right pick. Overall, I'd say it's a solid B to B plus show. You know, nothing crazy to write home about, but it was a great NXT pay-per-view.
Yeah, short, quick, to the point. Wasn't sure how I was gonna feel about the Iron Survivor shit, but it seemed like super convoluted and like ridiculous on paper, but they actually executed it where it made sense. Like, I know they were trying to find something to replace War Games, and I think this might be their thing. And like, I wasn't mad at it. Like, I definitely wish Carmelo had won, but it was pretty interesting. I'm not mad at it. I liked it a lot.
My only thing was, okay. Some people may like this, and that's fine if they do. I don't need magic in my wrestling. I just don't. Like, I don't need someone to possess a ref so they win. Like, Like, it doesn't do it for me. Like, if you like that thing, fine. What do we say on Botched, Spots, and Chair Shots? We're not going to yuck anybody's yum. If you like it, fine. I just think it's weird.
What do we say?
We don't yuck any yums, Bobby.
Can I put that on my T-shirt? And not include you guys in the merch?
I'm not gonna lie, like, I totally agree. Like, that shit was dumb, but like, that's kind of like the gist of NXT 2.0. Like, it's
supposed to be
weird
cartoony,
amalgamation.
right?
Yeah, it's a weird amalgamation of like Vince's fucking 80s, early 90s WWE and black and gold now mixed in with it. Like, they haven't really found that full Triple H regime stride yet. Like, they're still kind of like working off the stank of 2.0. So like, some of that stuff is still like the scripts dude and all that other shit. Like, it's they're getting there, but it's still some wacky shit that goes on from time to time.
Yeah. Bobby?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts?
No, it's I don't like the magic stuff. I think that's why that one WWF gimmick failed in the 90s. That guy popped up one time with the strings popping out of all this stuff. I think magic exposes the fact that pro wrestling is worked.
Right.
Just like they say, when you let a fan behind the curtain at a magic show, it loses the appeal.
Mm-hmm.
Wrestling, I think, has lost that same appeal. So introducing a magician loses it even more. So it's like having a guy with pizza and throwing it up in the air and spinning it around and expect to get ratings.
But it did.
But it did. But it did.
Did it really?
For 1 week?
Huh?
And then nobody cared about him.
The ratings weren't up. It was the internet buzz that was up because they were like, "Oh my God, that's the guy I saw on YouTube or TikTok or blah blah blah."
Well, in 2022, Bobby, as somebody who fancies himself a content creator, don't you think that's the same way everybody is, though? As everything's moving to an online buzz, your social media presence, the way you do things, how you do things, like, isn't that what this is about?
Yeah, but unfortunately, I'm not part of a national television project like PBS or TNT. And
Touche.
Long and short, as a company that is owned by them or has a contract with them, I don't care what the internet buzz is. I care about what my ratings are, so I can sell more content and more commercials.
Facts.
They could sell commercials for Papa John's. With that guy.
with Luigi or what is he say?
What is it, Will?
Luigi Primo. Luigi.
It's not Luigi.
Luigi. Luigi Primo.
Mm-hmm.
You got anything else?
Yeah. I mean, do we want to talk about the rest of the final battle card?
I mean, honestly, nothing really stuck out.
The Briscoes FTR were amazing. Claudio Jericho was a good match. The Pure Wrestling title, Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia it was Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia. Yeah, it was Daniel Garcia.
The AEW TV title.
Yeah. I feel like for the most part, like they were all solid matches. It was a lot like Deadline, kind of a B show. Final Battle had screams of really high-end indie wrestling. Like if you go to a really, really nice indie show, that's kind of how Final Battle felt.
So AEW.
Yeah, sort of like AEW.
But, all right, so what do you guys feel about the tap out with Jericho? Like you've seen so many people be spun by Cesaro. And
he's old drunk. He probably was fucked up. Like I'll take it.
It may have been a crappy finish, but I like that he got his title back doing a very fan favorite move, so I can get behind it.
Again, it's AEW-ish, so I mean it kind of is what it is. Like I don't want to say I was surprised or wasn't surprised, but like it was like, okay.
Yeah, like I love that Cesaro won.
I don't.
It's like what does that move? Like what does that move? Why do you tap? Like their airplane spin has been around since what, like the 50s or 40s. Very few people tap. It's after the move is when they lose.
Well, also too though, those airplane spins, they had you on your shoulders. It wasn't really like you literally getting fucking spent around by your ankles.
I will admit I like the way Jericho took it. That
Right.
wasn't putting his hands behind his head and like getting ready for the bump. Like he had his hands out. Like it looked legit, but I don't know. It was just a weird way to tap.
Ravage says that Jericho's an old man. That's why he tapped.
Yeah, he's get vertigo, man.
100%.
I would have puked.
I would have rather him like spent him and then turned it into the sharpshooter or whatever he does. Like I think that would have made more sense.
Did Ravage text Marie on that one?
I don't know. Bobby, shut up. Briscoe's FTR should have been the main event. There's very few points when the world title shouldn't be the main event of a pay-per-view. And I think if the story of the secondary title is built up enough, it can replace the title. And my example given is SummerSlam 92, British Bulldog, Bret Hart. The story they built between them, their families, their wives, everything built that story to be bigger than the Savage Warrior story at that point. So it made sense to make the Intercontinental title the main event at SummerSlam in Wembley Stadium with everything going on. FTR Briscoes 3 should have been the main event over Chris Jericho and Claudio because the story was bigger, the build was bigger. Everything these guys said and did on the internet was a jab at each other. Even when FTR was wrestling other people, they were still doing things to call out the Briscoes. All the drama with the AEW TV stuff we've already been talking about, all of that built it to a point, and just purely based off the stories told in the ring, the FTR Briscoes match was a better match than Jericho Claudio, and that's not taking away from what Jericho and Claudio did.
I almost feel like it was Jericho Triple H after Hogan Rock. And I feel like Jericho should have been smarter than to put himself in that position at this point.
I don't even really think it was necessarily his decision. I mean, there's a reason why they gave him the title, because they wanted a bigger star with some sort of name recognition to kind of bring more eyes into it. So like I said, Jericho is, like you said, Jericho is smarter than that, but I don't think this was his call.
Yeah, so it's another sign of bad booking.
That absolutely.
And he's got Anderson there. He's got, I don't know if Blanchard's still there or not, but he's got Jericho. He's got Claudio. He's got all these veterans that are there, Bryanson, and he's not listening. And that's exactly the same thing the Bucks get accused of, and Omega not listening to people that have been there before. And he's right in the club.
Did you just say Bryanson?
That's
Did
what
you
he says.
combine both of his names?
He does it all the time.
Bryanson.
Whatever. Daniel. Mr. Bella. Mr. Bella. How's that?
Mr. Bella.
Okay. My last one. The not pay-per-view TV pay-per-view. Winter is coming.
Those things piss me off. Like they really do. Like just come on, man. Like it's fucking Dynamite. Like relax.
Bobby, as an old wrestling fan, I wanted to ask your opinion of this. You're like me, you go back to the territory days. Do you think the way JCP utilized closed circuit specials in lieu of big sellout pay-per-views, sometimes for their TV programs, do you think Tony Khan is trying to emulate this? And do you think he's being successful with that model?
Well, the thing about JCP is they didn't do it on their regularly like 6:05 show or their their normal shows. They had Clash of the Champions, like it was a special night, just like WWF did with Saturday Night's Main Event.
Correct.
So I think that's where AEW is failing, but I also think it's not only a failure on their part as a company, but it's the network showing that they're failing, because this is the exact same network that used to show Clash of Champions, and they're not willing to give them extra time to have these shows. This is, to me, a ratings grab, and it started as a ratings grab back when they had their whole little feud with NXT being on the same night.
Mm-hmm.
They just haven't let it go. And I think to truly make these shows special, then the network has to get behind them to allow it to be special on a different night.
Yeah, like they do that with the Battle for the Belts. Like, why couldn't they take any of those time slots? Like,
Well, that's
I don't know.
the
Like I
problem.
said,
Just like they're titled to all their different titles, they've got all these specials where they do quarterly pay-per-views, which I love. I like the length of time for the build between the pay-per-views. But in between those, 8 to 12 week pushes between the shows, if you have 2 or 3 network specials, it's kind of like having 2 or 3, small scale pay-per-views in between them. So you're not really allowing yourself to breathe as much in your booking if you've got to worry about booking all these specials in between your pay-per-views. It eliminates the point of having all that time between your pay-per-views if you're booking all these special shows and one-offs in between them.
let's be honest, it's not like they put anything extra in these. These are literally just fucking episodes of Dynamite with the new can of paint slapped on them. Like that.
Winter is coming, Dynamite edition.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like they really, like, it's not like any, like, crazy feuds were built up to it or any extra work was put into it. Like, it's literally just Dynamite with Winter is coming in the background.
It looked like they copy and pasted that trios match to open it. Since
Right.
they didn't give us any stipulations, it looked like the same match week over week. Like, they did a lot of the same moves, a lot of the same stuff. The finish was cool, though. I'll give them the finish.
It's like when WWE does their flashback Raws or whatever, like Raw
Right.
Classics and that kind of thing. Like, that's all these shows are. Is let's put, like RN said, let's put a little paint on these and tell you it's different and hope you buy into it.
And the stands do. So
All right, gentlemen.
All half of the crowd. Or all half.
AEW's fans are like Cowboys fans, just delusional.
They think they're the best ever.
It's their year every year.
Hey, I'm not. I mean, I didn't really get into AEW for a while, but I think consistently I like it for the most part, week over week.
I mean, I like it too, but you're not allowed to talk bad about it on the internet, or every fucking creep in their mother's basement comes after you.
Bunch of
Yeah,
neckbeards.
it's like University of Tennessee.
Bobby, you shut your whore mouth. Go Big Orange, Rocky Top. All right, gentlemen, meat and potatoes. The Ring of Honor World Title. In the summer of 2002, there was a tournament to crown the first Ring of Honor champion ever since. Okay? First champion was Low Key. The current champion is Claudio. The longest reigning champion was Samoa Joe. The shortest reigning champion was Kyle O'Reilly. The oldest champion was PCO. The youngest champion was Low Key. The oldest champion was PCO. The heaviest champion was Takeshi Morishima. The lightest champion was Jonathan Grisham. I'm going to ask you all three a question. RN, I'm going to have you go first. Of all the people that have held the Ring of Honor... Okay, Bobby,
I actually took notes. I got it.
Okay. Of all the people that have held the Ring of Honor title, RN, who is your favorite Ring of Honor champion?
This is probably going to be a little bit of a hot take and unpopular maybe, but Jonathan Gresham has been my favorite champ. Like the foundation and everything, their crew, and then him joining up with Jay Lethal and a couple weirdos in the group, whatever. But like Jonathan Gresham to me was like what wrestling was these last couple years. Like he's excellent technical, excellent character, cool ass fucking ring gear. They're just their swag and everything about him, coming with the Kraken mask and everything to the ring, like the octopus face. Like he's right up there with like I don't know. I guess I picked him over Daniel Bryan because of just the fact that, like I said, it's newer. I guess maybe because it's fresher in my mind, and he literally has been carrying Ring of Honor since before they went out of business. So I'd say the last 3 years maybe he's been carrying. I know Roosh and Bandito and all them get some credit, but it was really the foundation and Jonathan Gresham and Jay Lethal and them being the pillars holding that fucking building up so it didn't fall through the cracks.
He was also one of the guys that pretty much carried them through the COVID pandemic.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like that's
like
the
he
last
carried
3
the
years.
company on his back a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Bobby, who's your favorite Ring of Honor champion?
From a personal side, Jerry Lynn, only because I know the guy and he's an amazing performer. And he's a great guy, inside, outside the ring. But I think the guy that had the most impact to me, and it wasn't really a long reign, is going to be CM Punk, because he got the belt. He literally signed a WWE contract on the belt, but it gave Ring of Honor for the casual fan. We got launched into Ring of Honor. Like, we actually knew what Ring of Honor was. And I think his impact on Ring of Honor, because of that, I would put him number one. And I know, RN, you say that's going to bring you a lot of hate. I know my pick is going to bring me a ton of hate.
Bobby, everything you say brings a lot of hate. Marie chimed in, says she enjoyed Samoa Joe as champ, and Danielson was a great heel champ. I'm sure both of those guys are going to be coming up in the conversation. Kevin Owens was also a Ring of Honor champion. She was there for Morishima and Danielson as well. Alison, do you have a favorite Ring of Honor champion?
I'm probably going to jump on the Gresham bandwagon with RM because I just love him. Like, I've seen him work live, and he's just fantastic. So,
and there's him and Jordan Grace or whatever on social media are fucking adorable.
So
like, they are ridiculously, like, I'm not into like that lovey-dovey squishy shit, but like seeing them bench press each other and like fucking like
Come
they
on,
do
man.
some
You raise puppies. You got to
they
be
do some weird shit though. Like, literally do some weird shit. Like, she'll carry him around like a baby and shit. Like, they're ridiculous on there. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that's part of why I love him too. Is like their shit outside of the ring as well.
it's important.
I think it's cool. I mean, I don't have anything against Gresham. I think he's one of the best technical wrestlers that was in the Ring of Honor locker room at the time. My favorite Ring of Honor champion was kind of tough. Marie kind of took some of my thunder with throwing Kevin Owens in there. I was always a Kevin Steen fan. I think the work him and Generico did was off the charts. But I'm also going to throw a curveball out there because I'm a Rollins guy. You know, I think Seth Rollins is one of the best workers in our generation right now. Excuse me. I think he's a generational talent. So I'm going to throw Tyler Black in the mix as a personal favorite for Ring of Honor champion because of the character work that he did there in Ring of Honor helped build him to get the developmental deal in FCW and stuff to become Seth Rollins. Right. So I feel like without Tyler Black, we would have never had Seth. So it was kind of torn between him and Kevin Steen for those two for my favorite ones. So looking through some of the history of it, one of the things that stood out to me was, I think it was around that 2005-2006 range, was there was a point where they unified the Pure Wrestling title. If you're not familiar with the Pure Wrestling rules, guys listening, look them up. It's a very specified, very old school way of wrestling. You're not allowed to slide out and leave the ring. You only get a certain number of rope breaks. Very old school wrestling. Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Bryanson had a match to unite the Pure title and World's title. Danielson got the win in England. RN, I'm going to start with you talking about this specifically and kind of let everybody roll through with it. Looking at who Bryan Danielson is now in 2022 versus looking at him in the early 2000s, what do you think in his career was the best version of himself. Starting in Ring of Honor, going into WWE, WrestleMania, all of that, all the way through the Blackpool Combat Club. It's a very tough question to look at. But
it's not tough for me at all. His Ring of Honor work was out to me, stuck out more and meant more than anything he's done afterwards.
Easy money then. I like
Easy
it.
money for me because first of all, his technical skills, he carried the company on his back for a long time too, with his heel work and everything like that. Like he doesn't get enough credit because we've been stuck with this yes shit for so long, but people don't know that his real bread and butter was being a villain and being a damn good fucking heel. And that cattle mutilation, even though it probably doesn't hurt worth a fucking damn, but like just seeing him do it to people and like how he would stretch people out, like for me, like it's easy money for me. Like his Ring of Honor reigns and his matches with Nigel McGuinness, Samoa Joe, like these matches are classics that we're going to go back and eventually look through time and shit and watch these matches. And I don't think it's going to be much of his WWE shit. I think it's going to be more, he'll be recognized more with that big ass bald head in Ring of Honor.
Alison, at what point did you start hating Bryan Danielson?
Okay. So this is a funny story, sort of. So when I first got together with my now ex-husband, he was still really into wrestling, and it was when like Daniel Bryan was like super huge in WWE, and the fucking yes chant literally drove me up the wall because my ex-husband would literally walk around the house going yes, yes, yes to everything. Annoyed the fucking piss out of me. And so because of that, I have had a really, really, really hard time liking him. Like I'm finally starting to get over it because like they've stopped doing the fucking yes thing. It
That's
also like this is dumb, but it bothered me that he wore a t-shirt out to the ring with his little Speedos because it looked like he was a kid, like Saturday morning, like eating cartoons in your whitey tighties. Like I just couldn't.
First off, there's nothing wrong with eating cereal in your tidy whities and watching cartoons. That's completely okay. It's absolutely fine to do that. I like Bryan Danielson everywhere except for WWE. I feel like a lot of times he was getting pushed into that WWE identity crisis. He wasn't Bryan Danielson. They made him Daniel Bryan. They took everything that he was, all of his sharp edges that made him unique in the Indies and in Ring of Honor, and they took sandpaper to it. And they watered him down, and they rounded off all the edges and made Daniel Bryan out of Bryan Danielson. That doesn't mean that I don't think his WWE run wasn't great. He had a couple solid runs. I wasn't the eco-friendly belt, the big brown belt that looked like it was made out of cardboard. Wasn't a big fan of that. But I agree, his heel work in Ring of Honor was some of his best work he did through his entire career. Bobby, what do you think about Nigel McGuinness as a wrestler versus a commentator?
I've never seen Nigel wrestle.
Really?
I was not an ROH guy. Yeah.
I thought I liked you, Bobby.
I'm sorry. I've never seen him wrestle. I've heard great things about him, but I've never gone out of my way because he doesn't excite me as a commentator. So I've never been like to like start researching him. I know. I'm sorry, Marie.
Does anything excite you? No, don't answer that.
54 minutes.
His Mandy Rose.
Alison said something inappropriate.
His Mandy Rose research excites him.
All the research excites him. That's all you just research. And Bob's like, I'm into it. What are we researching?
I should be like, does anything about wrestling now excite you? No.
No, Mandy got fired.
We still have Alexa and Liv.
I think Nigel as a commentator, I'm just going to keep this train rolling. I think Nigel as a commentator is one of those few guys that really excel and stand out, kind of like a Joey Styles or a Morrow or a Jim Ross or somebody like that. You know what I mean? He kind of has that feel. He could kind of carry the booth by himself, but also in a wrestling ring, the dude's up there. Technical ability wise, he was a great peer champion, so it made sense for him. Talking about the belt itself, I sent you guys a picture earlier. I'm going to put it up on the screen now for everybody watching. There's been 5 different versions. Don't forget about Delirious. There's been 5 different versions of the Ring of Honor title. The big one at the top was the first one, and the current Ring of Honor title. Bottom left was the second one. The middle bottom left, beside the Jay Lethal picture, was third. Then the fourth. Then the fifth is the one on the bottom and the far right. I call that one the Bandito belt because it was the big gold one that Bandito had before they went back to the original championship. I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to start with Alison on this one. Looking at the designs, what are your thoughts on the overall design history of the 5 different Ring of Honor titles? Are you pulling the picture out?
Yes.
How did you not have the picture up already?
Because I forgot.
Bobby, what do you think about the overall belt designs of the Ring of Honor titles?
The first big one reminds me of the old UWF championship back from the 80s and 90s when Bill Watts changed Mid-South to the UWF. The second one, the bottom left, reminds me of a classic NWA type of championship.
It has real strong TV title vibes, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'd say that. The next one, I have no feelings about that. The Jay White one's really hard to see. The last one on the right, which is going to make no sense to anybody listening to this and not watching, that reminds me of the Impact Championship or even like Jeff Hardy Championship.
That's a good one.
The Nero one or whatever he had.
Yeah.
RN, overall, what do you think about them?
My favorite one is the one that Jay Lethal's holding because that's kind of when I got back in to like Ring of Honor heavy. Like it was streamlined. It was a little bit bigger. It was almost had ECW title vibes with like the older model before it. So like that's always the one that comes to mind anyway when I think of Ring of Honor. But the classic one is what it is too. Like it's kind of plain and kind of just like eh. So like I definitely go with the last two, the Jay Lethal one and then the big gold one.
Alison, you ready?
Yes.
What do you think about the title belts? You're probably the least experienced of the Ring of Honors, so you've only seen 2 of these 5. The 2 most recent ones, the one I keep calling the Bandito belt, the bottom right, and then the top one, which is the current and first version of the belt. Looking at the 5 belts, which is your favorite?
If she's seen 2, I'm less experienced.
I've only seen one. The current one.
The current one?
I mean, it's simple, but like, I don't see anything wrong with it. Like, sometimes you don't need all the shit on it.
Yeah.
Like, it's clean. I like clean things. I mean, none of these belts are like super terrible, but I think the Bandito belt looks the coolest.
The only thing I didn't like about the original ones because between that and the Pure, all they did was slap a dude getting suplexed on the Pure Championship, and it's essentially the same fucking belt.
I'm going to follow in behind Bobby on it. I think the current title, which is their first version of it, looks like the NWA Dome Globe. It reminds me of the 10 pounds of gold. The kind of the overall shape of the belt, the kind of design with the rectangle face plate, the rectangle side plates, like a couple modifications, it would look like the 10 pounds of gold. The second one, Bobby and I were talking about it, it reminds me of the old NWA TV title. Adrian Adonis type stuff, you know what I mean? Like the old school TV title. The third version of the belt, for some reason, when I see that belt, it makes me think of New Japan, which is ironic because they've always had a great working relationship with New Japan. We'll get to that in a second. The Bandito belt, the 5th version of the belt, I really liked how big and bold they made it look. You know, I like that they were trying to make it look like a big world's title, and I was appreciative of that. Bobby, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to have you tee this one off. When you look at these 5 title belts compared to, say, a Reggie Parks Winged Eagle, what do you think about a traditional one of these belts put against like a Winged Eagle or, the 10 pounds of gold or the big gold belt. Do you think any of these designs stand up to any of the classic designs that everybody holds high?
No, I'd say trash. Like I'd say the 5th belt, the most recent one, it looks like a spinner belt to me, like a much smaller spinner in the middle. That 3rd title looks like a belt that you would see at an indie show. The one next to Jay. I can't see Jay's belt, so I'm not really sure what that one is. The 2nd one that I said looked like an NWA belt, I feel like it could, but I feel like they tried to be different by putting it as silver.
Mm-hmm.
And then that 1st one, again, it looks like the old UWF belt, but I think it should be. I think it should be gold. Like I don't think that you need to like separate yourself and be silver because if you're watching the Olympics, silver is 2nd place, so they're automatically putting themselves in 2nd place.
That's a good way to look at it. Alison, are any of these 5 belts in your top 5 favorite belts of all time?
No.
No? Well, moving right along.
What about RN?
RN, are any of these your favorite belts? If somebody were to be like your Mount Rushmore of world titles with the Ring of Honor title, any version of the 5 versions of it, would any of them make your Ring of Honor, like your Mount Rushmore title belts?
No.
Make a note, Siri. Let's do an episode on our Mount Rushmore title belts. Like, that's a great idea.
That is.
So, when you talk about Ring of Honor and you talk about Ring of Honor champions, there's somebody's name that has to come up. That's Jay Lethal. He has the most combined days as champion. He's pretty much had the rub. He's gotten the rub from every, old school or big player left in the game, from Flair to Steamboat, Rock and Roll Express. Like, the guy's worked with a ton of old school territory guys that has said Jay Lethal was the real deal. Looking at it from that perspective, do you think Jay Lethal is as hyped as everybody's made him out to be throughout his career?
I don't think he's hyped enough, honestly. Like, I think that he put them on a map that they weren't on and gave them kind of a legitimacy that they never really had, especially after that mass exodus of Bryan Danielson and Seth and all those guys, and you were kind of just left with just Kevin Steen and El Generico. Like, Jay Lethal came in and gave that title a meaning and gave it something that you could stand on, being the champ. So to me, I even how AEW used him when he first got there, they put him on what is it? What's the black show that they put all the black wrestlers on? Is it Elevation or Dark?
I think
because it's not Dynamite. So you bring up one of the most decorated wrestlers in the last decade, and he only wrestled on Elevation and Dark for the first 3 months he was in the company. So I mean, he's grossly underrated, and his standing and his meaning to the business, and especially as a black wrestler, I never think that he gets the credit he deserves.
Alison, what do you think about Jay Lethal?
I love him. I've seen him live now 3 times. Once at Ric Flair, once at Ricky Steamboat, and then I'm pretty positive we saw him when we went to Dynamite last year. I think. Maybe.
Probably not.
Remember, but we've seen him work a few times.
I've seen him work a few times.
If it was Dynamite, no.
Well, it may have been a dark match, I think. But I think he's amazing, and I agree with RN. He just doesn't get enough time. That's an astounding problem in AEW, is that they don't give really anybody except for the Bucks and Omega enough time. But I definitely think he deserves to be getting more flowers than he's getting. He's great in the ring. He's great in the mic. He's fantastic. He did an amazing job of putting 2 really old, washed up guys, especially Flair, super over, and did such an amazing job doing it. To me, that almost takes more skill, to be able to put somebody who used to be amazing but can't really do it anymore, to be able to help put them over and make them look good, like that should be praised more than what he's getting. Like, he's doing a fantastic job.
Bobby, what you think about Lethal?
To me, Lethal is the greatest sixth man off the bench.
Yep.
Like, he's that guy that, he's not going to be remembered for the Hogan, Flair, Savage, whatever. Like, he's not going to be on anybody's, Mount Rushmore. But he's that guy that you go to when the chips are down, because not only can he entertain on the microphone, he entertains in the ring, imitating Randy Savage. That's amazing. Like, is that what gets you over? Like, does that get you in a Hall of Fame? Probably not. But the fact that he can go toe to toe, and like Alison said, with Flair, carry those matches, make them look good.
Mm-hmm.
He's not your superstar, but he's your superstar 0.2. Like, he's that guy that you go to when you've got nobody else there. And
that's the greatest fucking analogy I've ever heard. Like, that is so fucking like spot on, pinpoint. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was trying to think of something like that too. Like, yeah, he's not gonna be that upper echelon Rushmore guy, but he's that one that's right there. So sixth man, like that was fucking dope. That was fucking dope. Applause.
And that's the rewind with RN and Bobby Mack.
Yeah, that was fucking. That was dope. That was dope.
I actually wrote down the timestamp for that, and I put Lethal six man so that I would remember to go back and get that clip.
You tag me on TikTok.
Oh, I always do. I think that the important thing to remember about Jay Lethal is in 2 title reigns, he held the belt for over 700 days.
Yeah.
And if you look at the perspective of today or even yesteryear, Roman has held the belt for a shade over. I mean, he'll come close to 1,000 days by Mania. They always talk about Bruno and Bob Backlund and Hogan being in that 750 plus 1,000
Don't forget
range.
Pedro. Don't forget Pedro.
Pedro, like Pedro as well. But when you think about it, like Jay Lethal had 2 reigns that equaled over 700 days. What does it say about a person and a talent and a worker for a company to go, we're going to put the company on your back, here's our title, now carry us for, the better part of 2+ years. I think that says everything we need it to say about Jay
And not
Lethal.
even that. I mean, just on top of that, go back and look at some of the people that he beat. There's literally the who's who of indie wrestling at the time, and a lot of fucking main eventers in other companies right now too.
Something too you look at is this isn't a private company. It's not like a indie promoter promoting his best friend or himself.
Right.
Like, this is a national television company, and Cornette's behind a lot of this, but they have faith in this guy to keep their promotion going.
Right.
So it's not favoritism, it's talent that's keeping him where he's at.
And like you said, he's always, anytime they lost a bunch of people or the shit was sent clear, anytime anything was going bad, Jay Lethal's the one that walked him through the fucking storm.
Yep.
Every single time.
Yeah, and it's sad that he's had so many opportunities with Impact or AEW, and they don't see that value.
Right.
Like, it's terrible. Like, this is where, I know I'm the old guy. When a guy like Cornette, this is when he comes in and he shines because he says, you know what, this guy is amazing. And I don't know why you put the little Buckies up there and Omega when you've got this ultra talent just sit in the locker room. And this is probably another one of those guys they don't want to listen to.
Right. Well, another thing is too, why the fuck is Jeff Jarrett and Sanjay Dutt his mouthpiece? He's a better talker than both of them combined on any fucking day of the week.
Yep.
So looking through some of the people, he beat Colt Cabana, Kyle O'Reilly, Jay Briscoe, Joe Coffey, Mark Andrews. He beat Shady Natrace. He beat Cheeseburger, Leo Rush, Lance Storm, Matt Seidel, Hiroki Goto, Tomoaki Hanma, like Michael Elgin. Like, he went through some dudes as champion.
Yes.
Roddy Strong, Jay Briscoe, Kyle O'Reilly, like Joey Hayes, like AJ Styles. Like, Jay Lethal beat some dudes as champion. Thank you, CageMatch.net. No free shout-outs.
Yeah, and AEW is not doing him any favors by putting him with Jarrett because all it does is tie him into Impact.
And those and the old dudes, which he's all automatically, when you think of him, that's the first thing you think of anyway, either the Black Machismo shit or the woo off he had with Flair.
Yeah, and he's younger. He's younger than Hardy. Like he's younger than Jericho. Like he should be this upper echelon. Like I don't know his age. I don't know Omega's age. He's got to be pretty close. Like a couple years older, not much.
Like I said, they've been grossly underusing him since the first time they fucking signed him. Like, and I think they dropped the ball on him and Gresham, and them not signing, especially if you're doing Ring of Honor, you bring in the foundation. Like that's a dope ass. You have these faction wars and all these other faction stuff set up. Like you had one literally from the company you just bought that was set up perfectly, and it had Jay Lethal, who's your veteran that you can plug in anywhere. Had Gresham, who's a young up and coming guy, and had Red Titus, who's another vet that could be the jobber if you need him to be. Like they had something perfectly set up, ready to bring in to kind of usher us into that Ring of Honor, and they dropped the fucking ball. Yeah,
Lethal would have been so much better than Jericho to put him into that position. Yeah. Like Lethal should have been the guy that challenged all the former ROH guys because it makes more sense.
Yeah.
But again, they went the Big Show route with ECW, like we talked about earlier, and they failed. And this is Tony Khan's whole thing. He collects all these like little baseball cards, and he's throwing these like guys out. Like that's why I feel like he's got a collection, and he doesn't know how to use this collection.
No, like I said, they dropped the ball flat out. Like I said, like they dropped the ball.
Yep.
So in 2003, they renamed the Ring of Honor title to the Ring of Honor Worlds title. Do you think adding the Worlds to it added any prestige? There used to be the thing, Bobby, you and I have talked about it, where it had to be defended in so many countries before it could be claimed as a Worlds title or something. 3 countries, 4 countries, 6 countries, whatever the hell it used to be. Do you guys think in 2022, if every promotion has a Worlds title, does making it the Worlds title mean a difference?
No.
Does that make sense what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah, I've worked for a bunch of indie promotions, and they all had World Championships, and they didn't leave a mountain city in Virginia. I remember one time one of the champions, quote unquote, was at a bar talking to like some friends of mine, and he goes, I travel the country. I go from Pigeon Forge to Gatlinburg to Sevierville, and people in Tennessee will realize that's all one county.
Yeah, you just go up Parkway.
Yeah, so this guy, a friend of mine, friend of my friends, goes, "Did you say the country or the county?" That yeah, but putting World in there, like you might think it's big or whatever, just because it's probably cheaper to buy that belt too, because you can buy a replica WWF belt or WWE belt or WCW belt, whatever. Dude, no, you're the champion of this gym. Like you should just be called the Sevier County High School wrestling champion.
Like they should just they all should be like, besides like WWE and really just WWE, because I don't think anybody else is traveling international. Like there is no real world champion except in WWE. Everyone else should just be national champions or just your promotion's champion. But I think it made a difference for Ring of Honor then when they did it, because that was when they were getting a lot of influx of the Noah guys and some of the New Japan guys, and they were becoming more international. So I understood why they did it then, and to kind of just that was when we were getting that indie boom too, like in the early 2000s, where indies were getting propped up and you were seeing them. They were getting TV deals even though they were on at 3 o'clock in the morning and shit. But it was still a time. It was a great time to be alive for a young wrestling fan, tape trading and shit like that, and finally getting shit on the internet.
What do you guys think about promotions that use when they put their titles up, they base them like boxing divisions? So a heavyweight, a light heavyweight. You know what I mean? AAA, MCLL, both for a long time used the same weight divisions as boxing. Do you think wrestling would benefit from something like that, where they divided the guys up, or do you think it's a better as a free for all where they can bounce around between weight classes?
I think it's an anchor. Mysterio said it, and I think Jericho's even said it. Jericho got put in the cruiserweight division in WCW, and it was an anchor. He couldn't go above that division. And obviously, I have a fan. Yeah, and just so you know, Will, Evie is in the chat on TikTok tonight saying hello.
Oh, it's the first time Evie's been on an episode of Botch Spots and Chair Shots.
I know it's his premiere, but yeah, like I think if you put those weights on them, unless you're gonna like really commit to those weights, then it's gonna fail and it's gonna hide the guys down. Like Matt Hardy, he did a really good job when he tried to be the what was it, lightweight champion or cruiserweight champion in WWE, where he was like making weight, and made it important. But unless every guy's gonna do that, I just don't see that it'll ever be important.
I mean, I kind of agree, but to me, like wrestling is about suspending disbeliefs. Like if you put up weight classes, then what exactly are we suspending? What belief are we suspending when it comes to these matches and shit? Like I never agreed with the weight classes. Like the cruiserweight title, it was dope, but I think I like the X division title idea more, where it's doesn't matter your weight, it's if you can compete in this division or not. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't like the weight class, and like you said, it puts a cap on guys. Like you get pigeonholed into being a cruiserweight wrestler, which half these guys did, and then Benoit became a world champ, Jericho became a world champ. Like all these guys that were cruiserweights, like look how long it took them to like wipe that stain off. So like, I kind of agree with you, Bobby. Like I get it to certain degrees, but like for the most part, everybody's 5'9" anyway. What the fuck do you need a cruiserweight title for?
Speaking about some dudes that are 5'9", that's the perfect segue to my next segment. Bandito versus Jonathan Gresham. Because this was going back to the COVID shit. Like, Gresham beat Lethal. He won the belt. He got given the first title because Bandito had the 5th version of the belt and then got sick and couldn't compete for a little while. So they gave Gresham, when he won it, the original Ring of Honor World title. At Supercard of Honor in April of 2022, Gresham became the undisputed Ring of Honor World's Champion. RN, you've already hit on it quite a bit with the thoughts on Gresham, but what do you guys think about Gresham and Bandito and kind of utilizing two of these cruiserweight style guys, these smaller to mid-sized guys, to be the focal point of your heavyweight world's heavyweight title division?
Well, the thing with Gresham was even though he was a little guy, he looks fucking huge, and you know what I'm saying, and he's strong as shit. So like I get it to a certain degree, and like in some of the shit, like even in there with Claudio, it did kind of look weird. But I mean, once you see him get going, and once you see him actually be able to like dunk some of these big ass dudes on their head, you understand why they propped him up, and like for him to put the company on his back for the last 3 years, including the pandemic era. So like. That's what always caught me about him. Like, it was like, he looks huge. Like, he doesn't look like he's 5'4", fucking 180 or 160 pounds, whatever the say is. Like, he has no neck. Like, he literally looks like a ball of muscle. So, muscle hamster is the best fucking description book.
A muscle hamster. I'm writing down that timestamp. Bobby, what do you think about Gresham and Bandito kind of having two, like, the cruiserweight style guys running the show for as long as they did in Ring of Honor?
I'm going to get booed from Marie. I have no clue who either one of these two guys are. If you put them in a lineup, I could not identify them.
You didn't do your homework at all, Bobby.
Listen, you sent it to me like an hour before we went on the air.
I sent you 2 weeks ago more than 2 weeks ago. RN's known for 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I feel Bandito is a Mexican luchador mascarada who is primarily known for his
Get
work.
off Wikipedia. Get out of here with your bullshit. Al, you've seen both these guys work. Do you like the high-paced, fast cruiserweight look of Bandito, especially when he clashes with a technical wrestler like Gresham?
Yeah, I mean, I like high-flying stuff. I think it's super cool. But I love Gresham. Like, I don't know. He's just so tiny. You can, like, put him in your little pocket. Like, muscle hamster is perfect. Like, it's fantastic. Like, and he's just so good. Like, I think that AEW just really dropped the ball, like, when they let him go. Because he's amazing.
Yeah.
I think he would have been perfect for the All-Atlantic division. Mm-hmm. He would have been perfect for, running against He wouldn't have been like Wardlow. Imagine like somebody built like a brick shithouse like Wardlow going against kind of like, and I hate to say it because I don't want this to sound like a derogatory statement, but it would be like Wardlow's 6'4" going against a 5'4" version of Wardlow. He's Jonathan Gresham is equally built like a brick shithouse, just in a much smaller stature of a body.
But fuck, he went against somebody bigger than Wardlow. Claudio is bigger than Wardlow. Like everybody always acts like Wardlow's like fucking 6'9", 7 foot. He's literally 6'1". Like he's not a fucking big guy. Like that. We need to get past that Wardlow is a giant thing because it's not true. Like he's literally a normal sized guy. He's just fucking jacked.
Gresham has a home and impact, according to Marie. Thank you. She likes his technical skills and him versus Fred. I'm gonna butcher it.
Fred Yehai.
Fred Rozier for New Japan Strong had a master class. I'll have to look that one up. I love good technical wrestling. So that's one of my favorite things about him. I do give him a lot of shit for being a small stature guy, but it's kind of the same reason I talk about Adam Cole. I mostly mean it in fun and jest because, like, when you come down to it, Adam Cole is one of the most dominating NXT champions they've ever had. He's also on the next subject I'm bringing up, which is that 3 of the 4 members of Undisputed Era all held the Ring of Honor title at some point. Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, and Adam Cole. All 3 had successful runs and reigns as the Ring of Honor title. What do you guys think about what that says when you look at the guys who held that belt, then came through NXT or FCW or OVW through the developmentals? 3 of the 4 members of maybe the biggest faction in NXT history, all 3 held the Ring of Honor title at one point, and even at one point Kyle O'Reilly took the belt off of Adam Cole and vice versa. Like they were trading back and forth at one point.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The Ring of Honor title put Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole on the fucking map. Like we probably wouldn't know who they are if it wasn't for the them battling for the title and them being a tag team and all that shit and everything. So it was like Ring of Honor. If it wasn't Ring of Honor, we would never have got the Undisputed Era.
Yeah, I don't think it's any secret that Triple H was definitely like hunting Ring of Honor and like getting his NXT guys from the indies. And, you know, Ring of Honor is the biggest indie out there. So, yeah, it's, you know, there's no reason like he wouldn't want these guys. Now, PCO is probably another issue.
What do you guys think about PCO going all the way back to the Rougeaus, like all the way back into the 80s? Do you think it says something about the tenure of his career to have been, he was the oldest person to hold the title when he held it. And do you think it says something about how long that man's been able to work? Because he's been in the business a minute. Like I said, he debuted in 1988.
Him doing those fucking 400 pounds, doing those moonsaults and shit, and jumping off the top rope and all that shit. Like, that shit's crazy.
He held the Ring of Honor title 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was him. Like 2 years ago, PCO would have been 52 years old, and he was the face of Ring of Honor Wrestling. What do you guys think about them putting the world title on a 52-year-old guy? Do you think there's an age out in pro wrestling where you stop being the face of a promotion once you get to a certain age?
No, I think it's 2 things. I think one, he did reinvent his career, but I also think it's a reflection of where Ring of Honor was 2 years ago, that they were like an NWA, you know, a kind of a dead promotion. PCO had a lot of fanfare on the indies. He definitely stepped up his game. Like that was the best he's probably ever been in his entire career.
Right.
Like he finally had it on the mic. He definitely had some ring skill. But you know, putting your belt on him, I'm not sure if like that's the right move. You know, kind of like a Trevor Murdoch, which Murdoch is nowhere near his age. But I really feel like PCO, they capitalized off his internet success.
Yeah, which was smart. That's why I'm not going to give him shit for it. And like you said, like he completely reinvigorated himself within the last like 5 or 6 years. And like, he really can go in the ring to be an old fuck. Like he really can go, and he's crazy as shit. He'll do hardcore matches. He'll jump off shit. He'll go through shit. So like he'll put his body on the line for your company. And I think that was a lot of too why he got the belt, is that they did have some like crazy ass matches. And I think it was them kind of like rewarding him for putting his body on the line for the company. And like you said, it was kind of just like a sign of the times too of how down Ring of Honor was. I think that was like right when they lost Marty Scurll and all that shit and everything that was going on. So it was like kind of up in the air. But no, I don't normally, I am the shit on the old guy thing, but like I actually watched how that all went down, and like like Bobby said, they were they were trying to capitalize and cash out on his indie fucking buzz, which he had a lot of from PWG, all types of places where he was wrestling and catching buzz. So like I understand it. So like I won't be that guy this time.
Yeah, I almost feel like he was a very lower level Terry Funk.
Yeah. That's the best way. Yeah.
Alison,
Like
what
old
do you
as
got
shit.
to say
Like
about
why is he
PCO?
here? And then you see him go dunk his head through a fucking table.
Yep.
Well,
Dude,
I've seen him live.
Me and our in next week on the forward.
The fast forward.
That's weird. I've seen him live at, what was it? Was it NWA or was it Impact?
We saw him both.
Oh, both. He kind of creepy. But I will say, Jericho tied him for being the oldest because Jericho turned 52 while holding the belt this last time.
So
Jericho's old.
I'm going to throw a really random NFL reference in, okay? The backup quarterback for the Washington Redskins is a guy named Josh Johnson, okay? He's got close to, or the Washington Commanders. Sorry, not the Redskins anymore. They changed their name. Don't cancel me. Here's the gimmick. Or no, he plays on, I don't know, but you'll see my point here. In 8 seasons, he's had 23 transactions and has played for like 19 different NFL teams. Okay? So here's the connection between those two. PCO in 2018 wrestled in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Well over 25 different promotions in 2018. This is my point. This dude has a ridiculous work rate. The amount of matches he's done, the amount of promotions he's worked in, like he has close to 1,000 matches in his career. You know what I mean? Like this dude has been working a long ass time. So I think that kind of says a lot of who PCO was and is in the wrestling industry as the oldest Ring of Honor champion.
Yep.
All right, guys, this is the part of the episode that I have been looking the least forward to. I'm going to say 3 words. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of information, and then we're going to talk about his ass. But I'm going to limit it. We're not going to blow it away. We're not going to spend a lot of time. It's the summer of CM Punk. All right. June of 2005, he defeated Aries to win the Ring of Honor title. This was super odd because he was about to sign with WWE. Bobby referenced it. He literally signed his contract for WWE on the Ring of Honor title. It garnered a lot of heat from the fans. So it was sometimes in some markets he was a really big face. Sometimes in some markets he was a really big heel. This is where he kind of started to garner his cult-like following from the counterculture, straight edge stuff. Like this is when he really started to shape who CM Punk became. What do you guys think about CM Punk?
I like CM Punk.
I do too.
Yeah, I think he's underrated, and I know that kind of blows people's mind because a lot of people think he's overrated.
Right.
I think CM Punk, one, he doesn't have a natural athletic background. Like he's an emo kid, like he's, a music guy. He never played sports. He loved pro wrestling, and unlike probably some people in this room, like that we're listening, like that we're talking about, he had the balls to just go out there and do it and try it. And he succeeded at it at the highest level possible. WWE champion, wrestled The Rock, yes, have an attitude backstage. So the WWE, when he left there, a lot of guys said he was a locker room leader. He got that chip off his shoulder. AEW, depending on if you talk to the Bucky crew or you talk to the other side, he was a locker room leader and he was willing to listen and give advice. One side didn't want advice, one side didn't want to learn, the other side did. CM Punk, to me, will go down underrated because they are going to put that chip on his shoulder above what the guy can do in the ring and what the guy could have done backstage. So this summer of Punk, I think, was amazing. I did watch some of this stuff, retro, because everybody knew he was going to leave, but they wouldn't stop cheering him, and they kept going because he believed in his character. And I think that's what CM Punk does his entire career is he believes in himself and he gets people to believe in him.
Right. Like I was kind of like CM Punk's in my top 5 wrestlers of all time, like my list. But this last run, like I was kind of getting sick of him with the shit to being the King Tanker's dickhead in the back. But then all of this shit happening with Regal and everything like that. Maybe he was right. So maybe we were hating on him for no reason. Maybe it is a bunch of idiots running a wrestling promotion and they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Children. So like I said, I love CM Punk. I loved him because like Bobby said, like he literally is not no type of athletic background, no real family life, no real support. Like he literally is what pulling yourself from the fucking bottom is the complete and total definition of. Like
the American dream, baby.
Literally the American dream. Like literally like sleeping on other people's couches and shit and everything to becoming a world champion wrestling The Rock at WrestleMania and shit. So it's like I love him. I'm always gonna love him. Like he's got a smoking hot wife too, and he's kind of like he's just done everything you can in the wrestling business, and he's like I don't know, like I've always on the Summer Punk was when I started to love him, like really jumped on board, and I'm like, fuck, this dude can talk. Like you don't even need him. You know why is he with Paul Heyman? He doesn't need Paul Heyman. Like he's one of the only person that Paul Heyman's ever been with that may talk just as good as Paul or better. So it's like, nah, he's in my top 5. Like I said, maybe he was right about AEW.
I'm wondering why Will didn't say I'm marking this as when you said smoking hot wife, because every time I talk about a woman, I get Bobby's getting marked at.
An hour 38. There you go, Bobby. You feel better?
Okay, much better.
Alison, what's up with CM Punk? Specifically as far back as you can think, which would be like, what, August of 2021 when he debuted?
Yeah, that's really all I know about CM Punk. Unfortunately, I have not even watched a single match of his from WWE either. I've only seen
his AEW run.
His AEW run.
Watch his match with John Cena when he's leaving the company that night, and listen to that Chicago crowd. Like, it's incredible. Or his story with the Undertaker building up to WrestleMania with the urn, and Paul Bearer just died, like in real life. Like
Heyman. Like the whole run as a Heyman guy. It's clobbering time. She doesn't know about any of this. We're going to have to go through a CM Punk primer in the next couple days. Are you checking your pulse, Bobby? Is your heart rate up?
Yeah, I am.
The fact that Allison's never seen CM Punk work in a WWE ring made his heart rate go up.
I'm sorry.
The Straight Edge Society shit is like where I always lay my hat.
Dude, Straight Edge Society is amazing. Like that was like so like he took a Jesus persona in WWE and got it over. He had women, like old women, trying to slap him at house shows in the 2000s. Like he made them feel like what pro wrestling was in the 50s.
Right. Like literally that was the most controversial thing in WWE at the time. Like all the shit they had going on, all the stuff with women and like all the crazy storylines, the most controversial thing they had going on was a guy that didn't smoke or drink.
Yeah.
Like think about that.
Yeah, people hated the clean guy. Like
people hated him because he didn't smoke and he didn't drink. He was literally the biggest heel on SmackDown because he didn't smoke and drink.
Yep, and that was something that he did. Yeah, that's what he did in the Indies to get over. Like that's what he got recognized for ROH. Like this guy was the opposite of good, and everybody loved him or hated him because of that.
Yeah.
Like, it was like anti-Hulk Hogan. Mark that down, Will.
Anti-Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, like he was the anti-hero. Like he's Deadpool.
Yeah. That's yeah.
CM Punk versus Raven done right. That was a great feud from Marie. CM Punk Homicide was good. Samoa Joe versus CM Punk 2 out of 3 falls. Like she's rattling off matches for us that just kind of go. He also, in the 55 days during the summer of Punk, he had 4 successful title defenses in 55 days. So think about that. That doesn't count any house shows he worked or any tag matches he did. That was 4 successful title defenses in 55 days before he dropped the belt. CM Punk, I've said in the past and I'll say it again, fantastic worker, fantastic on the stick, but if everybody, everywhere you ever work says that you're toxic backstage, that's going to be what everybody wants to talk about. So I think, like, my big thing is I'm looking at it from the in-ring perspective. Like, the dude's gold in ring. He can work, he can talk, he shows that he can be a champion, he can carry a company on his back. Like, a lot of the same stuff we've said about people like Jay Lethal or Bandito or Jonathan Gresham. CM Punk is able to be that guy as long as it's under the parameters that CM Punk wants it to be.
Right.
Once it goes out, yeah.
That's my thing, is like, he gets labeled as toxic because he doesn't want to do what everyone else wants him to do. Like, that's the part that always, like, rubbed me the wrong way about how he was perceived or what they said about him, because they never said he really did anything to anybody. They never said he really disrespected anybody. They just said that he didn't take shit when management tried to have him do some stupid shit that he thought would affect his bottom line. So what is really that toxic about it?
I say Punk has got that rated Y stigma. Like,
right.
Basically what it is he puts his opinion out there and he doesn't give a shit what other people say.
No.
Should he have lost to The Rock? No. That should not have ended his title reign. Should he have lost to Taker? Probably not either. Like, should he have main evented WrestleMania? Yes, he should have. He should have. Like, he belonged at that main event of WrestleMania. Like, you've got King Kong Bundy, Mr. T, Paul Orndorff, main eventing WrestleMania.
That's what I'm saying. Like, all the shit that we hear about him and all the, like, he's toxic stuff, like, we've never really seen or heard that he attack somebody physically or cuss somebody out or disrespect somebody's wife. It's always issues with management. And that's what I hate about athletes and teams and shit and everything like that. We as fans, we always put the fucking organizations on a pedestal and, like, give people like, oh, he signed that money. You're like, motherfucker, it's still a job. No. Like, you don't have to do anything just because you signed a contract. Sometimes you don't want to go out there and get fucking sprayed with a fire hydrant or get hit in the face with a fucking cake or whatever dumbass ideas Vincent Pritchard could come up with. So, like, that's my thing, is like, it's always issues with management, and then he gets labeled as toxic or not a team player. It's like anybody in sports. Like, if you go against the team, even though the team can cut you, trade you, do whatever the fuck they want you, and throw you aside the next day after they sign you to a huge contract. But you're like, that's the part with CM Punk where I never got behind any of that toxic shit, because it's always issues with management.
The difference between Punk and Paul Heyman is a politician.
Right.
I think
and I've had that in my career outside of this. Like, my career, same thing. I'm not a politician. If I don't think that the sky is blue today, I'm going to tell you it's gray. No matter what picture you want to paint.
Facts.
Big time. I lost my train of thought because Bobby cut me off. I had something clever to say. Well, I guess that's it. That was everything on my list. So let's kind of look at it from a closing perspective. Everything we've talked about, some of the guys we've gone through, not to leave off the Christopher Daniels and the Jay Briscoes and all the amazing stuff that we didn't get to. I just made a list of some of my favorite things that I wanted to chat with my friends about. So let's kind of, to wrap it up and kind of look at like kind of a closing thoughts on the Ring of Honor title, the guys we've talked about, some of the matches we've mentioned, just like that. Let's kind of go around the circle and kind of give our closing thoughts on it now.
Let me go. I can go first. I don't care.
Go ahead. You're the guest star, and you always go first.
No, Ring of Honor is giving us some of the greatest WWE champions and some of the biggest stars in the past 15 years. So to me, it's WWE's feeder system, and it always has been to me. Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Adam Cole, like all these fucking dope guys, AJ Styles to a certain extent, you know what I'm saying? Like all these guys that are headlining and main eventing WWE, Triple H took them all from Ring of Honor. So for me, it's always going to be WWE's main event feeder system. And I think eventually, maybe when it's all said and done, they will get credit for that. But That's how I always looked at it.
Bobby?
Like, I would tie this into a pissed off for greatness. I think it's bad that AEW got the library because I really feel like WWE could have done a lot more with this library. You've got guys like Jamie Noble, CM Punk, Austin Aries, Samoa Joe, all the people RN mentioned that really brought this thing to a next level. And I think WWE probably would have been smart enough if they would have bought it, they would have killed it and put it on the video library, and we'd get some really good behind the scenes content. We get some really good documentaries of these guys. And unfortunately, at this point in time, I think AEW, with this whole thing with Claudio and Chris Jericho and back to Claudio, I think they're watering down the legacy. And I think it's a lot like what ECW was, like we talked about earlier with RN. I feel like AEW is going to do that with Ring of Honor. They're not going to mean to, but at this point in time, the legacy's dead. I hope that, if AEW is really serious about it, they can relaunch it, but it doesn't need to be AEW light. It needs to be Ring of Honor.
Agree.
Miss Siegel, you're up. Closing thoughts on the Ring of Honor title.
So here's the deal. I need to watch more Ring of Honor. That's really my closing arguments, because I haven't really watched a lot of Ring of Honor, like literally at all. I will say they are the only of the bigger promotions that I have not seen live. Technically, I guess I've seen Ring of Honor matches in other promotions, but not an actual like Ring of Honor show. I need to go back and learn a little bit more of the history of CM Punk. I should do some homework. I'm good on a lot of old things. You'll have to admit, for only being like learning about this for 2 years, like I can pretty well like.
You can carry a conversation, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just
my
need
9-year-old
to do some
me.
more.
What'd you say, Bobby?
But she reminds me of 9-year-old me.
9-year-old me. Does that mean in 30 years she's going to be a creepy old white man?
Only if she wears contacts and cuts her hair.
Don't cut your hair.
I will never.
My final thoughts on the Ring of Honor World title, I'm just kind of following with RN. I think it's always been kind of a feeder system for WWE. Call it what it is. Adam Cole, Tyler Black, Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, Jay Lethal. You just look at the list of guys we've talked about. And like I said, we didn't even talk about Christopher Daniels. We didn't even bring up one
Right.
Christopher Daniels match. And, he's a workhorse everywhere he's ever been, and we didn't even bring him up. I feel like we didn't even really talk about the fact that Ring of Honor brought over the Bullet Club from New Japan for the first time. You know what I mean? Like, there were so many things we could have talked about the revolving around Ring of Honor. Like I said, I made a list of the things that stood out to me as a fan that I remembered really well. But it's the big takeaway is absolutely right. Bobby, you're right. WWE should have bought Ring of Honor so they could have got the library. And RN is right that what I was saying when I first started about how with the feeder system into WWE and all of that. We made it.
I've never heard "I'm right" more than this by multiple people.
I will tell you this, Bobby. I will tell you when I text RN today, and I'm gonna put mine and RN's business out there, so to speak. When I text him today, and he asked who was gonna be on it, I said me and you, Bobby and Al. It'll just be the four of us, and he was like, "Bet, hell yeah!" Like I like Bobby, so I was hyped to get the two of you on the show today.
Always, yeah, dude. Yeah, like I said, weekly, the fast forward, me and RNN and Yellow Shoe Guy. We look forward to seeing you and talking pro wrestling.
Get you guys
like I said, I dig. Like I said, Bobby is Bobby, but I'm not gonna lie. 90% of the shit he says, I agree with. Like I can't. I mean, it is what it is. Like I guess I'm the fucking grumpy old white man too. I guess.
Well, let me tell you. 1 hour 51 seconds.
We have to get those other two guests on from last week to go against me and RN.
Last week was Katie and Kyle.
Wow, that's 2/3 of KK.
Oh wow,
No,
Bobby,
no.
dog,
we're
not going
hey.
there.
Hey, I'll go there. I literally just did a white sheet joke on Kyle on the rewind.
All right,
There you are.
this is it, guys. We made it. An hour and 45 minutes, almost to the minute. 1:45:22. So we slid right in there. Perfect timing. RN, plug your stuff. Tell everybody what you got going on over the rewind. What's new and exciting in your world?
The rewind is Sundays or Mondays whenever
Or
we
Tuesdays.
decide that we want to record, or Tuesdays. We kind of just play it by ear.
Whatever day ends in Y.
Whatever day we end up recording. But no, me and Kyle do the rewind. You guys are more than welcome to come on. Like, we enjoy having guests for sure. Got Mean Jelly Bean Productions on YouTube. Check out some of the videos. Like, play it loud for your mothers and grandmothers. They'll definitely love some of the stuff we have. Mean Jelly Bean Memes on Facebook. My actual IG account is ARA8984. Hit me up on there to talk about wrestling or whatever. Route 4 Kennels at Route 4 Kennel on IG. Like, we sell dogs, we sell dreams. Anything you guys? And Mr. 8984 on Twitter if you want to talk shit. I want all the smoke.
All the smoke. Bobby Mack, plug your stuff.
Oh man, you can find me on Twitch. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on TikTok. It's all the Yellow Shoe Guy. If you want to go on the Oculus Meta 2, Yellow Shoe Guy is there as well. I just hit 100, whatever the GPs are on Grand Theft Auto. So I think that's a big deal. I'm not really sure. But yeah, definitely follow me on TikTok. We're at 8,300 followers right now. The goal is to get 10,000. So, we can start making some of that sweet moolah, like Fabulous.
That was a really lame pun, Bobby.
Hey, I'm not supposed to say her name on this show.
No, that's not.
That's not true at all.
Oh, okay. Like Fabulous Moolah.
Allison, plug your stuff.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and the TikTokies at JustAGirl918. Please follow me on TikTok so that I can go live with Bobby and deal with some of these wrestle talk people. I don't know. Like, I want to talk to them so bad sometimes, and I can't because I only have 218 followers. This for the next week and a half now, I'll be continuing my 12 days of WrestleMus. It's really funny. I've taken the 12 days of Christmas and turned it into wrestling puns as gifts from Papa H. I'm going to get back into the swing of getting a comic done every week for the Heel Support Group. We have a new character joining our crew. Very excited about that. So watch out for WrestleMus and Heel Support Group.
Follow the Kai Tai Show, lead host of the Smack Raw podcast and the Rewind. Follow Matt Ritter, MatTridder at Smacking It Raw Pod. Follow Ted the Hillbilly Hill at the Hill Truth Podcast. Follow Katie Wrestling, Katie Kinsey Baby. Follow BC Hunter. Follow Marie Shadows. Follow Wrestling with the Truth. Follow SES Vince. Follow Dad Hat Wrestling. Follow JaxBo089. Follow all my friends, please. But
Follow Bama.
follow Bama Chatter. Follow all my friends, please. But now, as we close another episode of Botched Spots and Chair Shots, I want to take a minute, thank you for listening, remind you to go wherever you do anything on the internet, like, follow, subscribe, unsubscribe, then subscribe again, leave a comment telling me how great I am or how terrible we sound. Either way, it helps the algorithm and it helps find new listeners. If you're feeling really generous to be one of the VIP people, head over to patreon.com and donate to the Smack Raw Podcast Network. You get some fantastic swag, we get some fantastic guests. It's a win-win. For the Yellow Shoe Guy, Bobby Mack, for RN, for the Boss Bitch, Miss Alison Siegel, I am the Will Gray. Thanks for stopping by and listening, my people.